Good evening. A new law designed to help vulnerable children by assigning every child in the country a guardian is to be challenged in court. The idea is for a named person, like a teacher or health visitor, to look out for children's welfare. But campaigners believe it intrudes on the private lives of families and contravenes their human rights. Katrina Renton reports.
Taking their case to court, the Macintoshes have 4 children: Caleb, Joel, Caddis and Micah, all under the age of 8. They say they're extremely happy together and are concerned at the impact a named person could have on them.
Well, if we have different ideas on how to bring up our children, on how to educate our children or anything like that, and the named person has different views, then who gets the final say? Is it the named person or is it the parent?
The legislation was passed at the Scottish Parliament in February for every young person from birth to the age of 18 to have a named person, like a teacher or health visitor, to look out for their welfare.
The reason why the Macintosh family and other campaigners have come here today is because they believe the named person scheme goes against the European Convention of Human Rights and will diminish their role as parents and their rights to a private family life.
The Scottish Government says nothing in the legislation changes parental rights and responsibilities, and that the policy is already operating successfully in a number of areas across Scotland. Highland Council has been piloting a named person system for the past 4 years.
One example would be a mother who was worried about her 3 or 4 year old's behaviour, and she was starting to worry that her child was being labelled as a bad child. She went along to see her health visitor. The health visitor, as the named person, with mother's consent, was able to talk to other specialists, and we got a diagnosis and there was a hearing impairment.
The Scottish Government say they're confident that the legislation is compliant with the European Convention on Human Rights, and the scheme is due to start in 2016. The question now is, will the courts see those who oppose its point of view and grant a judicial review? Katrina Renton, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
That's what we don't exactly know at this point, as to what extent an individual, and call them what you will have the power or indeed the inclination to, whether you say interfere or get involved or pry or inquire into people's lives. I mean, is that controlled? I mean,
yes,
can you hang up the phone and say, go away, I'm not interested, They phone up and say, hello, I'm your child's assigned named person. I'd like to switch. No, bye. Can you do that?
No.
You can't do that?
Yes and no. Well, it is. It all has to be taken into context with the needs of the child. So it's not right and proper.
But who decides the needs of the child?
Well, that will be up to services and the named person. However, the legislation is completely covered by...
And where's the parent in that?
And the word that should be used is proportionality. The parent will be involved throughout.
But these words are so open to interpretation, Alan. Proportionality. Define for me proportionality.
I actually don't think there is a definition that's suitable for proportionality.
It's not about trying to replace the parent's role by placing a named person in a young person's life. It just gives them the option to talk to someone out with the family about any difficulties or problems they may be having. Well, ain't that reassuring? A page on a government website designed to reassure people that they aren't looking to take over the role of parents. Why would the government be worried that people would think that in the first place? Besides being a creepy bit of newspeak, what is a named person? They are something that is being implemented in Scotland as part of GERFEC, or Getting It Right for Every Child. Every child in Scotland, at or prior to birth, will be assigned a named person. Babies will also be tattooed with a corresponding barcode. Sorry, just kidding. GERFEC is a key element in the Children and Young People Bill, which was introduced by Alex Neil. Mr. Neil is the Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice, Communities and Pensioners' Rights. Going through the whole bill straight up would be quite dry, so luckily for us, this website includes a sound clip of an adorable little girl reading out the details. A very good choice. It's less blood-curdling this way.
Most of us get all the love and support we need from our families, but sometimes things can be a bit more difficult to sort out, and sometimes we, and maybe our families, might need a bit of extra help. Every baby, child and young person in Scotland is going to have a named person. Someone outside the family who can help and support them if they need it. You might not have heard of this yet. For young people, it's most likely to be your guidance teacher or the head or deputy head. If things are going fine, most likely you won't notice any difference. But your named person should be there for you and your family. They should be able to give you any extra help or support if there are any concerns about your well-being.
At a glance, it sounds nice. Someone to make sure children are okay. I also found myself immediately hesitant to tear into this statement as a child was saying it. Kind of creepy if they did it deliberately for that effect. Regardless, I think it's a good idea to look at the language they used.
If things are going fine, most likely you won't notice any difference.
This paints the named person as some kind of surveillance. There will be a change. Someone will be assigned to your child, but don't worry, you won't notice it unless they have to step in.
They should be able to give you any extra help or support if there are any concerns about your well-being.
This is one of those lines I was talking about that sounds really nice at a first listen, but then you really think about it. It sounds like they're saying, if you're having trouble, they'll help you, but who exactly is deciding there's concern about your well-being? Presumably the person watching you. And what does well-being even mean? You'd be forgiven for thinking that it just means that the child is healthy and happy, just in general, there aren't any major problems. However, well-being is a nice bit of Scottish newspeak. The well-being of children and young people is at the heart of GERFEC. The approach uses 8 areas of well-being in which children and young people need to progress in order to do well now and in the future. These 8 areas are set in the context of the 4 capacities, which are at the heart of the curriculum for excellence. The 8 areas of well-being in the context of the 4 capacities, which are at the heart of the curriculum for excellence. Wasn't this in Morrowind? It really sounds like the beginning of a demon summoning ritual from a fantasy game. The 4 capacities aim to enable every child and young person to be a successful learner, a confident individual, a responsible citizen, and an effective contributor. And remember, every child in Scotland will be assigned a person at or before birth to make sure they are turning into a responsible citizen. Otherwise, they step in to change it. So what's their primary method of intervention? A big wheel with a difference should soon be helping teachers and other professionals in Perth and Kinross work differently with children, young people and their families, as head teacher at Letham Primary, Sharon Forbes, explains. Where a child has particular learning, emotional and social needs, meetings between professionals and families can sometimes get quite emotional. We've been piloting a new approach that lets everyone express their thoughts and feelings in a constructive way that's completely focused on the well-being of the child who is at the heart of the discussion. It's a large format, tabletop version of the GERFEC well-being wheel. Very simple, but it helps everyone to keep their focus on the child and their family. It allows us to identify clear strengths, difficulties or barriers and to agree what the family can do and how the professionals can support them to achieve this. Sounds nice and pleasant, but remember what the purpose of the GERFEC well-being wheel actually is. It's to make sure that the child is becoming what the government considers a responsible citizen and effective contributor. These meetings are for when a person assigned to a child at birth decides the kid isn't going in the right path, and they get together to tell the family what they can do. Sorry, in spite of the colourful design and nice language, my blood is running cold. Perhaps you don't feel the same, but maybe that's because I haven't shown you everything I've read. Let's go back to the well-being page. Referring to the 8 well-being indicators, it says, these are the basic requirements for all children and young people to grow and develop and reach their full potential. They are shown in the diagram on the right, which we call the well-being wheel. The well-being indicators are used to record observations, events, and concerns and as an aid in putting together a child's plan. The My World triangle and the resilience matrix are used to gather, structure, and help with assessing and analyzing information. Is it just me, or have you noticed that in the front sections, the main bit, the flowery bit, it makes it seem like they're gonna step in and protect children from abuse, but here it sounds more than a little bit Big Brother. Children and young people will progress differently depending on their circumstances, but every child and young person has the right to expect appropriate support from adults to allow them to develop as fully as possible across each of the well-being indicators. That is a level of spin that should inspire awe. Every child has the right to government interference in their life to make sure it's going the right way. Or at least, that's how I'm reading it. All agencies in touch with children and young people must play their part in making sure that young people are healthy, achieving, nurtured, active, respected, responsible, included, and, above all, safe. Like I said at the beginning, I really have no idea at all why they'd feel the need to try to reassure people that the government isn't trying to take over the role of parents. But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.
Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. This video right here is by far one of the most requested videos I've ever had since I've been doing this here on YouTube. It's all about a new miniseries that came out on the SyFy Channel called Childhood's End. Now, I wanted to watch the entire 6-hour miniseries before I did this video, and I actually finished watching it just yesterday. And there is a lot of really interesting things to pick apart here. I believe the reason that so many of you told me about this show and were requesting a video on it is because you know that I've been covering this subject for years. And that's the idea that aliens, quote unquote, are actually the devil and his fallen angels. It's all part of a deception. I have a whole playlist on this called Alien Demon Deception if you're interested. But this is certainly a subject I've covered for years. Certainly this is a part of the elite's plan. You can call it the Illuminati's plan, whatever label you want to put on that. But we are definitely being prepared for some kind of alien visitation. And they're setting the narrative now. They've been doing it for years. And I personally believe that when it happens, they are going to sell us these aliens as our saviors, or our space brothers and sisters. So I'm going to pick apart the 6-hour miniseries. I'm just going to show you a few things in there I thought were very interesting. But what's most important is we're going to go beyond that. We're going to look into Arthur C. Clarke a little bit as well, and his connections to all of this occultism and these esoteric ideas. What's most important, I believe, to understand about all of this is how old this story is. This is from 1953. Childhood's End is actually a 1953 science fiction novel by the British author Arthur C. Clarke. And the story follows the, quote, peaceful alien invasion of Earth by the mysterious overlords, whose arrival begins decades of apparent utopia under indirect alien rule, ultimately at the cost of human identity and culture. Another thing we cover here on the channel is Illuminati symbolism. That's one term for it, or a symbolism of the beast system. And what do you see right here on this cover of this book from, remember, 1953? Once again, we have that all-seeing eye, right? We have the beast system eye, the Illuminati eye. It's right there. I mean, this is 50, 60, 70 years ago almost now. We can even look right here. Once again, here's just another version of the book Childhood's End. And what do we have? That's right, more of the all-seeing eye symbolism, the one-eye symbolism, the Illuminati eye. And this is the stuff we're seeing all the time right now in our culture, right? Remember, this is 60, almost 70 years ago. They were putting this stuff out there. And again, you can look at another version of the book. And what is it we have here again on the cover but the all-seeing eye, of course, with the red and the slit pupil. The timing was very interesting to me. If you look at my channel and see several of the last videos I've done, once again, it's all about them preparing us for this alien invasion or this alien contact, and I believe it's going to be a great deception. And what you're looking at right here, this is one of the main aliens. They call him, I think it was Krillian or Killian, something like that was his name, but they call him the supervisor of Earth. There's other creatures that look just like this, and of course this is the stereotypical look of the devil, right? In the beginning he finds a messenger. This is his messenger right here. That's just one of the shots, but it's interesting. I've also covered mirrors recently and how mirrors can be portals between this world and the next. And even in the show, the way that the messenger is talking to this alien demon is through a mirror. This is the way they contact, is through a mirror. This is the way that they communicate with each other. It's the very beginning of the series. And it's interesting because as the series plays out, these demon aliens are seen as very much godlike. There's crime in the world when they first show up. At one point, a little boy gets shot and killed. And just within moments, the rays come down from the spaceship and they heal the little boy and he comes back to life. Everything's good again. One of the most startling scenes in the series is whenever they first introduce the alien, right? And of course, right here it is. The whole world at this point is waiting to see what these things are. They've been kind of hovering above the Earth in spaceships for a while, and now we're actually going to get to meet them. And this was definitely one of the most startling scenes right here, is when this alien is revealed. And of course, it doesn't look like any kind of alien we've ever seen, right? It looks much more like the devil. And here's a clearer picture of it. You can hear Krillion's voice at one point actually calling for children to come up and lead him down. And I know some other people have covered this symbolism as well, because this was pretty crazy right here. But when you look at this, what do you see? Is there anything in recent memory you can think of that this reminds you of? Perhaps a statue? That's right, remember the statue right here. This is from the Satanic Temple, and this is the statue that they put up in Detroit, that they were hoping to put up in Oklahoma, and who knows where eventually it's going to wind up being. But as I said in the videos I produced about this statue, this is just the beginning. For the last several years I've been talking about this stuff, this dark awakening. I mean, there really is an awakening happening. All kinds of people around the world are waking up to this stuff, the darker elements and the lighter elements. You know, some people are growing closer to God, and some people are growing in defiance of Him. Isn't it interesting that we have this story, and it's fairly recent, just over the last several months, about this Baphomet statue. And then right here in the show, there it is again, right? It's also very interesting the way that they handle Krillion and the other aliens, if you want to call them that. They're not outwardly evil. You know, at times they actually seem fairly kind, you know, benevolent. I mean, they give the Earth 20 years of complete and total peace and safety, right? All the food they need, there's no more fighting, all that stuff. So in the beginning, they seem like they're pretty good guys, you know. They're not here to hurt anybody. They're taking care of us, you know. They're looking out for us. Scattered throughout the series is more so-called Illuminati symbolism. Right here is one of them. It was the huge sun theater right here, and I've mentioned this in other videos as well. It's always about the sun symbolism. This goes back to sun worship, the worship of Lucifer. And it can also be used subtly as the whole Jesus is Horus and all that stuff. We're all just worshiping the sun, right? There are a lot of really interesting layers to this mini-series. I'm going to try not to spoil too much for you if you ever actually want to watch this. I was surprised how well made it was, seeing as how it was on SyFy Channel. I always figured SyFy Channel was Sharknado and just stuff like that, but this was actually a really well done mini-series here. So in this story, religion completely dies, and not just religion, but faith in God, and any talk of Jesus is completely out the door. These alien beings are truly Earth saviors in this story, and that's the way that all of the Earth look at them, as their saviors. And again, this is a subject I've talked about in a lot of these videos as well, that is going to be a very real issue. When and or if these things actually show up, however it is that the powers that be want to introduce these things to us someday, that millions upon millions upon millions of people will be deceived. The girl over on the left is like the last Christian person left on the world, basically. At least that's what it seems like in this miniseries. And she's still trying to fight for her faith. But this was interesting right here. The lady she's talking to on the right is married to the man that became the messenger in the beginning of the series. And she's explaining to the Christian lady that what we have now is better than God. Because in the past, she said, all we used to do was just cry and pray, and it just went into some abyss, is what she said. It went nowhere. God never answered. And now, well, now we've got these guys up here in the sky, and they're taking care of us. No one's fighting anymore. Everyone's getting along. We have all the food we need, and everything's cool. Everything's great. So we really don't need God. I won't tell you exactly what happens to that girl, the last Christian girl, but I will say that a large amount of the religious community you find out through this miniseries actually just killed themselves. They just killed themselves. Once this all happened, once these alien saviors came down, all of their faith, everything was just destroyed. So a lot of these people didn't know what to do themselves, so lots of these people just gave up, gave in, and killed themselves. Another one of the main characters is a scientist. His story is really interesting. Again, throughout this, I don't want to spoil too much. You should check it out. But he was a scientist, and he's aware of what this stuff is. He's one of the few people that gets it, you know, that sees that this really is the devil. This is the devil and his minions. And they're all coming in the guise of these alien saviors and being our friends. And he knows that something bad's coming. He's just not sure what it is yet. And speaking of the, again, so-called Illuminati symbolism, or the all-seeing eye, or the one eye, well, here it is again. There's so many people out there that think this stuff is stupid. It doesn't mean anything. It's just, you know, it's coincidence. Guys, this is not a coincidence. You know, once again, here's the all-seeing eye. And what that is right there in the middle is kind of like a Ouija board type thing they use to communicate with the alien saviors. And this part was interesting here too, because this is when the bad stuff starts happening. You know, in the beginning it all seems great. You know, it's all peace and love and all that stuff. But it was around this time when they started utilizing this machine that things start going a little bit crazy. I mean, guys, this is not a coincidence, okay? I mean, this is not a coincidence. Again, right here you got the all-seeing eye, right? You got the one eye. Let's go back about 70 years. Oh, look, hey, there it is again. Oh, look, and again. Oh, look, and again. And countless more examples you've seen here on my channel and other channels of this stuff manifesting more and more. We see this symbolism everywhere now. So it's interesting here, because as she's doing this communicating or whatever, something happens to her unborn child. She's pregnant, right? Some kind of a communication between her using this weird contraption and dealing with these alien saviors above. Something happens to her. I didn't get a picture of it, but later you see her giving birth, and the baby's eyes, as the camera kind of turns away for a second, suddenly flicker and change colors. So you realize that this is a hybrid baby. And this is half human and half them, right? But it's this whole idea of all these fallen beings wanting to mate with the humans, somehow combining their DNA with ours. And then there was a whole sequence right here I want to show you, and it's very interesting. Once again, filled with so-called Illuminati symbolism, right? But here we have the little girl. Now the little girl right here in the reflection, that's like a piece of a mirror, of course shaped like a pyramid with the light behind her. So here you have your pyramid and eye. That little girl right there is the daughter of the lady that was messing around with that machine and all that stuff, right? So we have this little girl, and she winds up being kind of the conduit between them and us. And this girl turns out to be a very powerful being. At one point that scientist is having a discussion with her. And this is that sequence right here. He's talking to her. He's talking to her, and then again, well, here comes more symbolism. He's got this picture right here, and he keeps asking her, what is this? What is this? Where is this? What is this? I mean, what is that? Well, once again, guys, a huge pyramid with the all-seeing eye, right? As I said, this stuff is not a joke. A lot of people think, it's coincidence. No, okay? This stuff is being revealed all the time right now. So anyway, back to the show. So he's sitting here showing her this picture. He's asking her, what is this? You know, where is this? What is this? And then all of a sudden, all the computer equipment goes crazy, and there's some kind of crazy energy goes through the room, and everything kind of goes nuts. And the very last shot in that sequence before they went to the commercial was this right here. It was the little girl in a pyramid. You don't see the top there, but it was in the pyramid with the light behind her. And she says, now the end begins. Cut to black, right? And that was the commercial. And that's when we start getting into what these beings were really all about, why they were here. And it wasn't just to like be nice to humans. So this right here is after about 20 years of all that peace and love and everything's going cool and there's no problems on the earth. This right here is the moment where this devil creature tells the world what's really going on. And basically he says that the earth will no longer be giving birth. No new babies are going to come into the earth, and we're going to take all of your children with us now. And that's exactly what they do. So all the kids all around the world start kind of floating up in the sky. It almost looks like a rapture type event, and they all fly up in the sky, up to the spaceships and disappear. Even women who are pregnant, their babies suddenly are just gone. So these things take all of the children, all the new life off of the earth. And they say, hey, you know, you guys can still live out your life. Everything's fine. We're not going to mess with you. Good luck. And that's it. And that's it. So after all the kids are off of the earth, you see one of the ships going away. One of the things I didn't tell you is that scientist had managed to get himself aboard one of these ships, right? So they kind of show you these creatures' planet. Once again, you know, the whole time, the whole idea is, they're just aliens. They don't really go too much into the devil stuff or too much into the biblical stuff. Not a lot. You know, they're still trying to sell it as aliens. But that's where I'm telling you the show's very subtle, because they do show you everything you need to know, especially when they start approaching their planet. And this right here is what it looks like. And that looks very much like, you know, traditionally what some people may say looks like a hell, right? And it very much is. I mean, as you're going through this, it's crazy. It's a huge ocean of fire and brimstone and smoke, and it's just not a very happy looking place. So this here was near the end, and they were kind of having a discussion. They find the scientists. Like I said, they don't even hurt him. They don't kill him or anything like that. They actually say, if you want to just live here with us, you can live here with us. but he wants to go back to the Earth. You know, that's where he's from. And that's pretty much it. That's most of the stuff I wanted to cover with the actual mini-series. I don't want to spoil anything and tell you what happens in the very end, but needless to say, you know, these space saviors, they're not good guys. They were bad guys. They were very clever, and it's interesting the way that they just kind of lulled the world into this, into accepting all this stuff. So whenever we're trying to decipher symbolism, one thing I always talk about is, you know, symbols can mean a lot of different things, but it's always most important to go back to the beginning. Go back to what its first incantation was, you know, what it really used to mean, and then we see over time how it takes on new meanings. Or at least it's sold to us, these symbols, to take on different and new meanings. But still, that original meaning remains. It's the same in a case like this. You know, instead of just watching the series and kind of talking about what I saw in there, I wanted to go back a little further. So let's go back to Arthur C. Clarke. What's interesting is if you start looking into Arthur C. Clarke, a lot of very, very interesting things start turning up. And by very interesting things, I mean lots of connections to the occult, lots of connections to the esoteric, connections to, if you will, the Illuminati. Let me show you a few things here. This right here is an older news story about the Chelsea Hotel. You may have heard of the Chelsea Hotel. There's all kinds of history there. There's something here that I wanted to show you. That was very, very interesting. Right here it is. You can see right here that Chelsea was built in 1883 and became a hangout for artists during the 1930s. Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller honeymooned there, and Andy Warhol found his muse. In room 322, Arthur C. Clarke wrote 2001, A Space Odyssey. And as many of you out there already know, that 322 is the number for the Illuminati Skull and Bones Society. It's just an American branch of this Illuminati. And we call it Illuminati, you know, but to me, once again, that's just a coverall. It's a catchphrase, really, for, if anything, for these secret Satanists. All these people, all these different groups, these secret societies that are involved in that pyramid system are all working towards the same goal, and that's a new world order, one world system, right? A one world leader. In the first few seconds of the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, the screen is completely black. And from this, we are to know that we are seeing the obelisk that will appear throughout the film. This all-black screen is the obelisk, so we are in the dark in the beginning, profane and ignorant of the light. The obelisk represents Lucifer, xenophobia, the mysterious, the unknown, technology. The illuminated, quote-unquote, powers of the cosmos, or the fallen angels, have sent this black obelisk where humanity is purportedly at the level of ape. And there may also be double meanings there, where the audience, who had at the beginning been shown to be in the dark, is not presented as like apes, you know, dumb, unenlightened apes. This should show the disdain and hate for humanity that some of these occultists actually have. The film's main theme, though, simply put, is human evolution. That may sound innocuous to some of you out there, but this actually cloaks a deeper, darker agenda. An occult agenda where man evolves to become God. Once again, we have that God-man theme we find so often in this. And this isn't any kind of an evolution to becoming more like God or like Jesus. Not at all. It has nothing to do with that Christian sense of redemption from death and participation in immortality or resurrection. Rather, this is more of a blasphemous evolution where man literally becomes a new God. So in the what I call the dawn of man scene, the arrival of the black obelisk actually provokes a lot of fear among the apes. And then we see the sun rise on the obelisk from a very interesting angle, and that's what you're looking at right here. The meaning of the pyramid without its capstone, which is what this is that great work of the secret societies and Freemasons is not yet complete. So here the dark light is dawning on ape to raise him to man in the great myth of evolution. One monkey discovers technology, which is a bone, and he uses it for a weapon and to protect his tribe, killing anteaters and overcoming other monkeys. The other clan of apes lack the bones and the weaponry, and they lose. So, again, the fittest survive, we are told, in Darwinian fashion. War, then, is necessary for progress in this mode of thinking. Here's something interesting that Stanley Kubrick wrote about the film. He says, "I will say that the God concept is at the heart of 2001, but not any traditional anthropomorphic image of God. I don't believe in any of Earth's monotheistic religions, but I do believe that one can construct an intriguing scientific definition of a, quote, God. Once you accept that fact, then there are approximately 100 billion stars in our galaxy alone, that each star is a life-giving sun, and that there are approximately 100 billion galaxies in just the visible universe. Given a planet in a stable orbit, not too hot, not too cold, and given a few billion years of chance chemical reactions created by the interaction of the sun's energy on the planet's chemicals, it's fairly certain that life in one form or another will eventually emerge. It's reasonable to assume that there must be, in fact, countless billions of such planets where biological life has arisen, and the odds of some proportion of such life developing intelligence are high. He believes in other life in the universe, right? He also says, now the sun is by no means an old star, and its planets are mere children in cosmic age, so it seems likely that there are billions of planets in the universe, not only where intelligent life is on a lower scale than man, but other billions where it is approximately equal, and others still where it is hundreds of thousands of millions of years in advance of us. So when you think of the giant technological strides that man has made in a few millennia, less than a microsecond in the chronology of the universe, can you imagine the evolutionary development that much older life forms have taken? They may have progressed from biological species, which are fragile shells for the mind at best, into immortal machine entities, and then, over innumerable eons, they could emerge from the chrysalis of matter transformed into beings of pure energy and spirit. Their potentialities would be limitless and their intelligence ungraspable by humans. And that was Stanley Kubrick in his own words. So like Richard Dawkins, God as conceived of in the Bible is just silly, but alien life is reasonable. And that's what I see all the time with so many of these people that are against this idea that the aliens are actually the fallen ones. It's this idea that God and all that, I don't know, that's all kind of goofy, but alien life, sure, sign me up. Alien existence is, quote, scientific, whereas Christianity is fable to many of these people. And this is reasonable and most, quote, scientific because billions of years means life will most likely randomly spring from muck and lightning somewhere else out there. And to me, this is nothing but an absurd gospel all on its own. As St. Paul explained, when men turn from the true God, they inevitably will worship lies and fables, defying creatures and creation, as we see right here with Kubrick's own words. So that was just some of the basics I wanted to cover on 2001, mainly for its connection to Arthur C. Clarke, also the fact that he wrote it in room 322. I just wanted to show you that this man, regardless of title he's given, scientist, writer, scientist, author, husband, whatever, he's very well schooled in the esoteric. He's very well schooled in the occult. That's why we shouldn't be surprised from this, from childhood's end. Something written almost 70 years ago that we could actually see taking place now in a very real way. Not exactly the way he wrote it, but again, this idea of the aliens coming and some kind of an alien disclosure is not just on the lips of me and other people on the internet or your neighbors and friends or whatever. I mean, this is the Pope's talking about it. The Vatican's talked about it. Our presidents have talked about this. All kinds of people are talking about it. And if you look in your media, we're constantly seeing this idea that they're coming, right? This is major predictive programming. Once again, I believe it's just setting us up, getting us ready for this kind of disclosure. It's very obvious to me. We keep seeing the same story coming up over and over again, these same ideas pushed on us. Oftentimes connected with occult symbolism, the esoteric ideas, we see a lot of the mystery schools, a lot of the Illuminati symbols. We see all this stuff together with this predominant idea of our alien saviors. Well, I'll leave you with that. You guys stay aware, realize the times we're in, keep your eyes open for things like this. Please understand that, God is very real. This battle really is taking place. This is a spiritual battle. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Take care, and I'll talk to you real soon.